Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope that by the end of this video, I'll have earned the honor and privilege of your subscription. In today's video, I'm going to do a tool review. And the tool I'll be reviewing is this handy little Guitar Nut Scriber. So what is a Guitar Nut Scriber? Well, basically it's a tool that you can use to mark a nut blank so that you know how much material to remove from the top of the nut as you shape it, as well as how deep to make the slots so that you can achieve the proper string action over the first fret. Now, to use this tool, you're going to have to know what your string action is over the first fret. And that's the distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the first fret when it's open. And a lot of folks don't really know what that is. So what I would recommend if you're in that situation is that you need to measure. Find a guitar that you have that has action that you like and measure the distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the first fret. Now the easiest way to do that is to simply use some feeler gauges. You can pick these up at the automotive parts store, and you can order them online as well. You can also use a string action gauge, and these are typically digital tools that you can use to measure that distance. And if you don't have a guitar that you like the action for, what you can do is grab your feeler gauges or your digital string gauge and head over to your local guitar store and test some different guitars until you find one that has action that you like, and then you can measure it. Also, if you're building guitars for other people, then you need to ask them what kind of action they like over the first fret. Hopefully they can tell you. If not, typically string action is measured anywhere from about 8 thousandths of an inch, which is roughly 0.2 millimeters, all the way up to about 20 thousandths of an inch, which is 0.5 millimeters. So somewhere in that range is what you want to shoot for. Now, some other guitar players like to have the plain strings a little bit lower, closer to that first fret than the wound strings. And typically that might be, as an example, 10 thousandths of an inch for the plain strings and maybe 20 thousandths of an inch for the wound strings. Well, obviously, as you're making the nut, it becomes important to know how deep to make those slots. And if you're not careful, you can go too far and ruin the nut. And that's why I always tell people who are making nuts for the first time, always make sure you have a bunch of blanks on hand, because there's a good chance you'll mess up the first one. You might even mess up the second one, even the third one. It may take you a while to get it right. But once you get the habit of making nuts, it gets a little bit easier. And a tool like this can really help you solve that issue of how deep to make the slots. So I'll bring you in a little closer and I'll show you how this tool works. Okay, so I think the best way to use this tool is, first of all, you've got these two adjustment screws. This is a set screw, and then this is the adjustment screw right here. And first thing you would do is loosen the set screw, and that allows the front of the tool to move back and forth, up and down. And then I would loosen this adjustment screw by turning it counterclockwise. And what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the tool so that the pencil lead, which is in the front part of the tool, it's clamped in there. When you buy this tool, it comes with some pencil lead, but if you make a lot of nuts, I would recommend purchasing a couple of additional packages of pencil lead. But you will insert the pencil lead in, and it's clamped into place with a hex set screw on the side here that holds it into place. And you want the lead to extend out from the front of the tool by about 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters. Then what you will do is you will sand it so that it's sharp at the very bottom of that piece of pencil lead. And it's kind of at an angle when you sand it. But then what you're going to do, like I said before, you need to know what your string action is going to be. And that's the distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the first fret. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video or any of the videos that I produce on my Highline Guitars YouTube channel, I would appreciate it if you might consider helping to support my channel. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can click the subscribe button down below. You can also click the join or the subscribe plus button. And when you do that, you can become a member of the channel. And when you're a member, you're going to have access to my members only videos, which are versions of all the videos that I make that contain a lot more information and detail than what I normally include in the videos that the general public gets to watch. Also, you can visit my eGuitar Plans website or my Highline Guitars merch store, and any purchase you make there is going to help support the channel so I can keep making these videos and sharing my knowledge and experience with you. And then, of course, if you want to keep it simple, you can click the thanks button down below and leave a small tip in the amount that you think is fair. And of course, at the very least, if you'd like to help support this channel and not spend any money at all, please consider clicking that thumbs up button down below. Now let's get back to the video. So as an example, I'm going to go with 12 thousandths of an inch, or 0.3 millimeters. And then what you'll do is you'll grab onto the back of the tool, and then you'll place your index finger over the front portion so that you can pull it up away from this board. And I should mention, this board is a flat board. You want to make sure you're working on a flat surface. But then what you'll do is you'll take your gauge and you'll run it right up to the edge of that piece of sharpened lead. And then you're going to pull the tool up, slide the gauge underneath it, and then lower it until that pencil lead is just touching the top of that feeler gauge. And then holding it with your finger in position, you can then tighten that set screw. So now the lead, the bottom edge of that lead, is 12 thousandths of an inch off the board. So when we take it to the guitar to mark the nut, the bottom portion of the tool is going to be resting on your first 2 or 3 frets. The front part will be in between the first fret and the nut, and then you'll just simply scribe a line on the front of your blank. That line represents the lowest or the deepest that you want to take your slots as you're filing the slots later on. But then before you do anything else, the next thing you want to do is loosen this set screw again. This is after you've made that first mark. So you would loosen it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to turn the adjustment screw clockwise, which is going to pull the front portion up. And you just want to turn it a couple of turns and then tighten that set screw again. Then you're going to make a second mark, and this mark is actually going to be above that first mark you made, and that's going to represent how much material you want to remove from the top of the nut. Now there are other ways that you can mark that are perhaps simpler to do. For one, you can take a pencil just like this to a belt sander and then sand it so that you've got basically half a pencil, and then you would simply place that on top of your frets so that the tip is touching the front of the nut blank, and then drag it across to mark the shape of the nut. That's a simple way to do it. However, the mark that you get is not very accurate. It's really just an indication that represents where you need to work to. So you still have to be really careful about how much material you remove from the top of the nut and then how deep you make the slots. And using this tool isn't going to be anywhere near as precise and accurate as this tool is. You can also stack up feeler gauges so that they represent both the height of your fret as well as the amount of string action that you want. And you can place this right up against the nut. And then as you slot the nut, as soon as your file touches the top of your feeler gauges, you know you've gone deep enough. But really, to do this, you need a jig or tool that's going to hold your feeler gauges in place over the curve of the fretboard as you're working. And those tools exist. I know that StewMac sells one, but they're fairly expensive. And you really can't do that sort of work by simply holding your gauges with one hand and your nut slotting file with the other hand. It's a little bit awkward to do it that way. Okay guys, well that's all the time I've got for this video. And in the end, the bottom line is, do I recommend this tool? Absolutely. I think it works much easier than the old method that I explained, where I used the half pencil to market, because you can get those 2 lines and they can be very precisely marked with this tool. And that's going to save you some time, especially when it comes to cutting those slots to the proper depth. So I would definitely recommend using this tool. There's links in the description below. And as always, if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. Visit my eGuitar Plans web store, my Highland Guitars merch store. Click the thanks button down below, leave a tip in the amount that you think is fair. And if you want to take it to the ultimate level, you can click the join button or the subscribe plus button and become a member, like I explained earlier. And at any rate, as always, take care, stay safe, and I hope you'll be back for more guitar building videos.